Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad to be a representative of the county here today, and I'm going to make some brief remarks, but then I'll be turning it over to Matt Harris to follow up, and then to my left, Gerard Durkin can also then follow up with any further details. And we're all here and available for questions afterwards. So I'll start off right away is that this budget reflects a proposal often associated with my position as county administrator. It is another great example of what a collaborative and mindful process can achieve. And while much of this budget follows plans and initiatives, this is the start of an important phase with detailed budget public work sessions starting today in this room with our Board of Supervisors. And starting tomorrow, we start the first of many community meetings, followed by public hearings that may lead to warranted adjustments from the latest intel of local and state revenues and prioritization of our expenses planned for an April 10th adoption. There are a few areas with our budget team that exceeded expectations, and I'm very proud to associate myself with all of those in the county, and especially those in budget over the last few months, as they continue to leverage our revenues in the best service potential manner possible, while also being mindful of the property tax burdens faced by all citizens and businesses. This is especially true in a few areas that I can now highlight for you. For our schools, which traditionally consume almost half of our budget, it starts with relationships, from county administrator to superintendent, from staff to staff, from board to school board, all of which have never been better. This enabled us to lead localities in our joint focus upon state funding constraints, as evidenced by the 2023 JLARC report. In addition, our capital investments program, which I thought was substantive in my first 6 years, is now being eclipsed by the last 2 years and our 5-year financial plan with record investments in new elementary, middle, and high schools. And together with the school-initiated redistricting, our perennial school capacity challenges are being addressed as we speak. For our public safety, whose 24 attentiveness to our safety and security is greatly appreciated, they have all been well positioned with their market-based salary adjustments, most recently a 10% increase last month and a decompressed 2.25% step system that has resulted in a highly motivated and high morale workforce to have a long career serving our citizens. The overall workforce of the county and school employees are functioning more and more like a collective team, serving all, and are being compensated in a similar market-based manner. For our transportation, we continue to leverage all sources to meet road, pedestrian, and transit-related services. But for FY25, we are adding a significant infusion of $300 million from our abilities to utilize our 50% local share of CVTA revenues to support the largest infrastructure bond ever issued in Chesterfield. The CVTA was designed to accomplish big things, locally and regionally, and this is the first example in the region of a locality exercising the power to do such that. For our citizens and businesses, besides the already publicized reduction of the real property tax rate another cent lower to 90 cents, our mindfulness of overall tax burdens among citizens and businesses are resulting in a continued depreciation and market adjustments from the high value of the vehicles that we had during the pandemic. Our real property tax rate is the lowest in over 50 years now. In addition, our water and sewer bills, which sometimes go unnoticed, but then for many, that is actually their highest cost to local government, continue to be the lowest in the region. And we have gone beyond the inflationary increases in tax relief for elderly and disabled, with significant adjustments in this program, enabling more people to qualify and not be constrained by prior restrictions, making this program the fastest growing program in our county and now costing over $19 million a year. For our businesses, we are fortunate to be engaged with 4 business associations. We are glad to be a partner in creating a business-friendly environment that provides the demands for goods and services locally. This has resulted in over 1,000 new businesses now calling Chesterfield home just in the past year. For our nonprofit partners and their volunteers and supporters helping, We continue to be thankful for your care and attention to the needs of those in our county, and we are proud to partner with you with our time, attention, and funding to sustain your services to those that are often the most in need. Unlike the federal government, we do not design operating budgets to rely upon loans, nor can we pass along unfunded mandates like our state. We must live within our means. Our strategy is simple. It's a 5-year planning funding horizon that continues to be conservative revenue growth that best leverages those dollars for the growing demands and the operational services and the capital projects to sustain Chesterfield County and its people. The budget today doesn't prioritize one set of interests over another, but is rather being mindful of all opinions and perspectives that are respected by all. While much of our citizens' attention to government gets distracted by federal and state issues, locally, we are mindful that our citizens are always the top of our organizational chart, for which all employees are accountable. New employees during their orientation are told this the first moment they arrive, and all employees are reminded of that day to day with the services they provide. This budget reflects that balance, acknowledging that we manage the taxpayers' money, not the government's, and ensuring that each dollar is best leveraged with the greatest return. It emphasizes efficiency and accountability in every fiscal decision while investing in services that anchor our community's well-being and respond not only to today's demands, but also anticipate tomorrow's challenges. I look forward to this upcoming process, but more importantly, I look forward to the year-round conversations we have with citizens, businesses, nonprofits, school partners, our employees, and elected officials about the budget and all other issues that are facing Chesterfield so that we can continue to best serve them all. Now I will turn it over to Matt Harris to provide some other details and insight into the proposed budget.
Well, thanks, Joe. Matt Harris, Deputy County Administrator. I see everybody's got the blue sheet in front of them. Is that accurate? Pass that out? Okay. So I'm going to just walk through there and hit some highlights. Jay talked about process a little bit at the beginning, just so we're all on the same page. Our work session to go through this in real deep detail is this afternoon. At 2, we posted on the website the full budget document last week, so that's also out there. I think that's just important. Like Joe said, we're kind of in that part of the season where we turn this over to the community for their feedback. So that we publish a full document, line item budget, summaries of every single department, a full explanation of everything that's here today. So this is just sort of, again, to hit the highlights we have this afternoon. And then we've been doing, I've seen several of you here the last couple of months. You know, I think we always talk about this today is a culmination of sorts, but it's a never-ending process, and this really just represents that next link in the chain. We've had full work sessions and updates on these topics for the Board of Supervisors and the community the last 2 months, and today really just sort of adds another layer of detail on it. But again, this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the information that's out there. You heard Joe talk about it. 5-year plan is, we talk about that every single year when we, get to March, and this really is just rolling that long-term vision forward. There are a few new things in here, really more from a delivery perspective, but the priorities that this budget is based on are, have been in place since, 1749. So, we are just building on that legacy. We've developed a formula for success the last several years. The population, the residents coming here, visitors, businesses, that has been an unprecedented success the last few years. And again, this just maintains that momentum on all of these fronts. Overall, you see it there, 4.9% growth in the overall main operating budget for the county. So, a relatively modest increase given that we're still seeing some inflationary pressures in terms of what we do. At the local government level, staffing up 2.2%. This isn't a big, heavy staffing budget. It's not a real big, heavy compensation budget. We've been talking with you all last couple years as we really implemented the pay plans across the board, county and schools. We feel like we're in a good position. There's the continuation of those plans, but not another step. We're not turning something else on necessarily with this plan. Some targeted staffing increases as part of this, but again, not a heavy growth in terms of staff. infrastructure, is listed here. Our three legs of our stool, kind of public safety, education, infrastructure. This is a heavy infrastructure focus as part of this plan. Again, we have become the leading destination for all those groups that I just mentioned, and come along with that is making sure that we have the infrastructure in place to service, all the folks that are coming here and doing business here and coming to, as you see behind us, coming to experience Chesterfield. So that's a heavy part of what we're talking about today. I'm going to talk just another second because I think it bears repeating, the transportation package. So for those of you, just a little bit of background, we have the Central Virginia Transportation Authority that provides us roughly at the local level $30 million plus or minus on an annual basis. So what we've decided to do is take that stream, already exists, General Assembly put that in back in 2001. So it's not a new tax. There's no new revenue associated with this. We aren't levying anything new. The cost to a Chesterfield citizen for this is exactly what it is today. It doesn't go up. So I think that's really important. But what we're doing is taking that $30 million, leveraging it, given our financial abilities and the reputation of Chesterfield County, leveraging that $30 million stream into a one-time infusion into our road network of probably at the end of the day over $300 million. That transaction will happen later on this summer. We're announcing it today as part of the budget process, and there will be subsequent actions that the board will have to take to put all of those approvals in place. But today really is the announcement of our intention to do that. So basically, one way you could think of it is we're taking what would take us 10 years to put that revenue in place and fast forwarding, speeding that road work, that infrastructure improvement list, speeding it up by a decade by being able to do this. And just sort of put it in further context, we did a general government referendum, a year and a half ago. County improvements as part of that, $165 million. That was our largest infrastructure package we'd ever done. So this is roughly, and it could grow a little bit as we get closer to the actual transaction date, 2x, twice as large as our largest infrastructure package to date on the county side. So it's an absolute milestone moment for the county. We have been talking about for many years. We have this long list of road improvements that we need to get on top of, and instead of waiting around for some of our other partners to join us at the table, the last couple of years you've seen us really take the bull by the horns and take the lead on this topic. This by no means solves that list. This doesn't take that to zero, but it will put all of the funding in place for that next piece of the Powhite Parkway, which takes it from its current terminus out to Woolworth Road. That's a huge piece of connectivity for us. And then we have a variety of other possible projects that we would include as part of that $300 million. We will refine that project list as we get further on into the summer, but certainly there's things on Hull Street Road that are possibilities, several important interchanges throughout the county that need improvements that will be part of that list. So we'll talk a little bit more about that this week. The Powhite will be the biggest part of that $300 million, but again, no additional cost to the taxpayer, speeding up this backlog of road needs by more than a decade, and twice as large as our largest infrastructure investment ever. So this is, and I think this board and the board before it have really heard the public call for focus on infrastructure. And if you look at just the last 4 years, largest investment in schools major maintenance, largest investment in school facilities at all. You heard Dr. Casey reference that. Our largest bond referendum on our packet, on our side, parks and library improvements, far exceeding previous totals. Schools is planning on, in their current CIP that's laid out right now, to deliver 10 schools in the next 5 years, 5 of which are replacements, most of which have additional capacity, and then 5 new facilities. That's never happened in the county's history. And really, at the end of that period, we take our overall capacity utilization in the school system somewhere in the mid-80s, which is just fantastic. And again, takes another one of those long-standing things that the community has been engaging with us about, if you will, and really takes that off the table. So, some really, really big pieces of this budget around infrastructure. Quickly, I'll run through the rest of the sheet. Education, we have a what I call in here is sort of budget speak, what a recurring transfer. So what our local support to the school division is, increasing that by another $20 million. $20 million was the record investment in education from the local side last year. We're matching that total. It's been unprecedented cooperation and collaboration with the school division. They will be here today at the beginning of the work session, so if you're around, they'll be over here to explain kind of what's going on their side. They do have some unfunded items as part of that budget, but we've been working with them closely, and I believe that once we figure out all the dust settles on what the state has done, they have approved a budget, it's still moving through their process. We don't have all of that today, obviously, but our goal is by the time we adopt on April 10th, once those details are provided from the state. So it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. Just when the state says we've adopted a budget, it can be weeks, if not a month, before we see all of the the granular pieces of that. So we don't have that information yet. We do believe that there will be some upside revenue-wise for the local school division as part of that plan. So we will come back and amend what you see today, but as it stands today, there are some important things that they're able to accomplish. We'll go through that at 2 o'clock. Public safety, again, compensation's been the big headline there the last couple years. We decompressed all of our agencies, really made us the pay leader. We've seen the recruitment advantages of that over the last few years. So continuing that pay plan so that to move those folks along the next step in there. We did a 10% increase for all of our first responders January of this year, so it annualizes that cost. So that, we budget, sometimes things are going to affect July 1, sometimes it's Jan 1. So they will continue to see the benefits of the pay plan objectives that have been planned in a previous year as part of this plan. I think an interesting piece, and again we'll talk a little bit about this afternoon as well, sort of the full spectrum of public safety, not just adding sheriff deputies and police officers and firefighters, but all the wraparound services that come along with that. I think that's a nuanced way of how Chesterfield approaches this, and I think it's why you see these as leading agencies. Not just in the region, but in the state, and in some cases the entire country. But a couple examples there. Police chief is asking for some caseworkers embedded within the police department to really be there and work very closely with victims' families, and understanding that that chain doesn't end just when you make an arrest. There are impacts that happen down the line. So I don't know that there's another agency that's doing that kind of thing and thinking through law enforcement, again, from a 360-degree perspective. So I think that's really interesting. Also adding, as an organization, some wellness coordinators that will be there to work with our first responders. There are certain stresses that they're exposed to that just aren't part of other jobs. So what we want to do is add to our staff folks that can help them through all of the things that happen, again, after the fact. I think that will set us apart, and making sure that it's not just the pay, not just the equipment, the training, but that we're taking care, again, of the entire officer, the entire firefighter, the entire sheriff deputy. There are some targeted investments in the sheriff's office. We've been really worked heavy in fire and police the last couple of years. The sheriff's been patient, so we had a list of things that we were able to do for him to really, again, round out his organization. You all know all of the things that happen over there. Again, that is a full-service agency, and so we need to make sure we're maintaining and keeping up with his needs. Work First in general, a 4% across the board for general government employees, for teachers, and for first responders. They move through their public safety and teacher pay plans, funding that next step. Again, we worked hard the last couple of years to put those plans in place. This budget continues to move them along as part of that. We are increasing the advanced, basic, and advanced life support stipends for our firefighters, just from a recruitment and retention perspective, making sure that we are remaining competitive in the marketplace. We look at the full range of those types of things every single year, and we felt like that was the one this year that needed a little bit of attention. You heard Dr. Casey mention it. Third consecutive year, we will lower the nominal tax rate down to 90 cents here in Chesterfield County. So that's happened 3 consecutive years in a row. The average tax bill for residential will still increase. Assessments have been strong in the county, as they have region-wide and throughout the nation, but trying to balance that out a little bit by being able to lower the rate. And certainly the board has given staff the directive to continue to look to take that rate lower, over the course of this 5-year plan that is part of it today. So that will be a continued theme as we look always to figure out how we can take care of everything that I've just mentioned, our first responders, infrastructure, schools, and be mindful, like Dr. Casey said, we're managing the public's money. It is not ours at the end of the day. There are some further enhancements in our senior tax relief program. We'll go through that this afternoon. Again, expanding eligibility. There's a variety of criteria that govern that program. We've adjusted some of them on an annual basis. This looks at really the most comprehensive overhaul of that plan that we've had in quite a few years. And then lastly, again, process-wise, today is just another milestone. It is not the end destination. We've got a month of public hearings, community meetings, and trying to decipher whatever it is the state did. So we will bring that information back on April the 10th. We start our community meetings tomorrow night in the Midlothian district, starring my friend Mr. Durkin, who I will pass it to fill in any gaps that remain.
Well, the only thing I can really add after Dr. Casey and Matt is, the operating budget is what we would term a kind of bread and butter budget. We're focusing on the basics. If you look at our budget in terms of the new initiatives, some that Matt pointed out, they make up less than 0.5% of the general fund budget that we'll be proposing today. We are mindful of the financial pressures our residents make, and we put that into our decision-making process. We look for efficiencies in our budget as we look at new programs and services, and as I say, it's less than 0.5% of what we have in our budget today. We are seeing some cost increases in terms of contracts and inflation, especially as we build out our referendum plan. The thing I would emphasize is coming back to that 5-year framework. It's easy to look at 1 year's budget, but we look at it over the 5-year horizon. And over that 5 years, we do see some cost pressures happening, especially in terms of our capital projects. And it's just something that we have to be mindful of as we build this budget.